Hopefully this is working and I look semi-decent. I mean, my webcam's gone full insane mode today. What's going on? It's your boy Izlogic.business. I don't have any music on just yet. Let me just sort that out real quick. And do that. There we go. You got some Crystal Cave music from Mystery Dungeon in the background. What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Izlogic.business welcoming you to our Gen G vs G2 series breakdown. The best of three that we've been wanting to see. Europe finally taking it to a pool one side. Gen G, G2. This is a matchup. So let's get into it straight away. Picks and bans. Vi, Poppy, Draven. First three removals. And we're seeing a lot of powerful picks gone already. We saw, last time G2 went out, Draven was picked in. And it was certainly a top performance out of Hansama. That's for damn sure. As for the rest of the draft coming through, Orianna and Jarvan removed from the field of play. Two strong combination of champions that neither side want to deal with. Kalista, the final ban, which leaves Kaiser, Xayah, Maokai, and Rakan also up and available. So I dare say we'll see probably them coming through here in this first rotation of picks for either side. Personally, I would like to see Xayah Rakan locked in here for Gen G. Get the safe, secure bot lane. I mean, G2, they've got options, obviously, for themselves. The Kaiser, as I say, Rel, also up and available. But this is the tried and true bot lane that's so safe, so able to control lane and just do work when teamfights hit later into the matchup. As for the rest of the draft so far, G2 should round out their draft with probably their own ADC support combination, because I feel Gen G will go straight in with a peanut pick for their third in this round. Ezreal locked in. Not a big fan of that one. It's one of those bait picks that haven't really done much here at Worlds just yet. There's the Lissandra, probably going to Mickey. This is sort of his counter pick to the Rakan that we've seen in the LEC. I believe he's got a perfect win record on this as well, so I like this option. It makes it a lot harder for Gen G to go for the aggressive engages with that Rakan. It peels so well when you try to go in. Plus, when you've got the Arcane Shift out from Ezreal, it does also provide a little bit more of a period for him to react to. But Gen G round out their phase with a Sylas. And already, you look at the ults that G2 have. I like this pick overall for Chovy. Blind pick, to say the least, into G2. And this is a very strong pick in regards to the fact that he's able to just steal away some impactful ults. He's going to have a lot of power going into the later game fights with the amount of damage he can put down. Bans coming through here. You have to feel Gen G may ban out Azir, ban out pool picks for Caps, as I think Azir would be the most ideal. Ahri, technically, something that Caps would probably default to. Syndra's also there, but hey. He's actually going to ban out, Gen G are going to ban out the Cassante and the Jace. So they're targeting Broken Blade here, as Doran going to have a bit of a difficult situation. Probably going to be saved blind pick for. And that's kind of the counter pick, I should say, not blind pick. But that's kind of going to be a sticky situation as Rumble removed from the field of play by G2. Don't want to allow a carry top that's got a lot of AP power to be locked in, because that Lee Sin gets locked in for Gen G, so no double AP flex from Gen G can come through, or can come through with the Rumble down. Kennen still is an option that could be flexed into that top lane. G2 now got to show the rest of their draft here. Probably will start with their mid lane pick here for Caps, and then if they lock in anything else, I'd be surprised. It's actually going to be Renekton Instalock. Now, if you know me, I'd prefer G2 to have locked in Broken Blade's pick last, because Renekton, while it technically can be flexed to the mid lane, I would have preferred to have seen that Tristana coming in literally then, and we know that's going to the mid lane. It's a very awkward draft for G2 with minimal AP. The Maokai and the Lissandra are kind of the only forms of AP damage. Bear in mind, Lissandra is a support, so she'll barely have a trickle of gold given to her unless Mickey goes on a killing spree like he did before. I doubt we'll see that though. As Gen G round out their draft with Doran's Jax. So it's going to be a very, very explosive top lane matchup. Both players wanting to scrap early and get some lane control. We're getting into the Rift in a few seconds, and this gives us a good time to kind of understand how these drafts want to play. And with what G2 have, it's sort of a pick comp more than anything. They're trying to isolate off targets and kill them as they progress forward to try and control areas of the map. Now, on the other side, Gen G, a very strong team fighting comp with options to pincer in onto G2. I'm thinking that this draft favors them with the sort of champions, the sort of damage distribution they can do. It feels very Gen G favored as we're getting in onto the Rift for our opening game of the day. G2 need to show up early. They need to get Caps involved on the Rift, and that should realistically alleviate the late game pressure that they're going to be facing from Gen G, as Doran, he could be susceptible to a 5-man play. Caps waiting over the wall as G2 collapse in the rocket jump forward. Jackson's jumped on. He's forced to leap away. He's trying to get to Peanut so he can jump to safety, or back to the entirety of Gen G who made their way up here to try and provide some safety to their top laner. Now, nothing really was massively invested by either side there. The thing that I think is most interesting is the fact Caps invested his rocket jump, or his level 1 ability, in becoming rocket jump. It means he doesn't have the same sort of pressure in the early lane as other Tristanas would. You would start maybe Q or E, dependent on how you want to push out the lane. I think rocket jump start is a bit of a issue. He's not going to be able to exert as much pressure, but obviously once he ticks over to level 2, that becomes less of a problem. And I think we should probably preface this that G2 need to get going early. Later into the game, Jax and Silas become absolute menaces, as the amount of cooldowns that Silas will get, the fact that the ultimates are just so goddamn quick to hijack away, it makes it so that he's basically playing with 5 ultimates in one go. It's hard to deal with. And so I think Gen G will just try to slow this game down. A little surprised that they didn't start with a cull in the bot lane for Desire. Because you're relatively in a safe farming lane. Ezreal, Lissandra aren't going to force too hard onto you. So you could realistically play that lane a lot more safer. Not risk any extra like investment down there by your jungle and just play it safe. I think that would be the smarter option from Gen G in this situation. But they're just going to take the trades evenly. Ezreal and Lissandra securing the early push. Kind of expected that, actually. Japan to mid lane. It's just standard Tristana doing the farm up the wave, controlling lane. Every time the Silas goes aggressive, you just fire in shots, and that's a lot of damage put down onto Caps there by Chovy. It's top side. Nice little path down here from Peanut, giving a little bit of safety to Doran to step forward, as well as the fact that this Scuttle Crab is going to be the name of the game for either side. And the junglers are fairly even on their clear. I'm watching Peanut right now just to see what he does. Just going full reset here in G2's jungle. His topside Counter-Strike will land. And that's an aggressive trade forward. The Lee Sin is here. Will not land the Shockwave. And this should just be the wave pushed in. Gen G not going to be able to get a kill in this top lane. Though it was very close. You have to feel if that Q landed. This certainly would have been a lot more of a trade through for Gen G. First Blood almost certainly to happen. Will not though. And so we go back to a laning phase. Now, interestingly enough, Doran's gone back, taking a full reset. TP's back in. Broken Blade does not have TP, so he hasn't got that liberty just yet to do so. He's just going to use his Q, calling Meat, to sustain off the wave. And now Yike coming up here to try and alleviate the pressure that Jack's put onto him. Counter-Strike not going to land. As Yike's face has shown, this should be just a straight push of the top lane. Get this crashed under Doran's tower, and it should allow Broken Blade to get a full reset off. And not really feel any pressure, obviously. The minions trying to be denied under this tower. It should alleviate some of the pressure that was put down here. And so G2, that's going to be grand entrance forward. And Samu is isolated. But Gen G unaware of Mickey's position, not going to overinvest. As Peanut's position is well aware of. He's spotted across 2 wards. Now, G2 positioning around mid. You've got Yike and Mickey in the area, giving Caps some shadowing. And essentially, I think the path down now should be G2 heading to this Mountain Drake. I think, as a whole, with the fact that Mickey took that path there, good use of the glacial path as well, it looked like it was setting up Yike to go to Drake, and it has done. Look at how many saplings he's already put down as top side. Gen G possibly looking for a play on the other side of the rift. Broken Blade just playing it safe, trying to hold the wave just outside of his tower, make it so that Doran has to overextend if he wants to get any form of gold. And so it isn't going to really work out for Gen G in trying to make a play topside, as Drake goes down to G2. Peanut actually going to get some counter jungling down, so that's actually a bonus to him. As Slice and Dice trades out for the Counter-Strike by Doran. We're kind of just play-by-play commentating this top lane. Now, looking down at what's been picked up, Caps has got himself a cull here as Yike smites away the Gromp. The top side fighting is still continuing forward. Broken Blade has the Dominus popped, but Doran, he's not going to be killed off here. Just forced to retreat back. going on a full reset, as the top lane is in a favourable position for this Renekton. Just forces the way through, and actually Doran cancels that back. Just going to pick up the wave for himself. He is very low. Broken Blade spotted out in the top lane still. So it's still just a farming frenzy across every single lane. We're wanting early aggression. G2 kind of need to press an advantage somewhere on this rift. They've not really been given an opportunity to do so. As mid lane, Delight shadowing Chovy. As G2 early track up to this Herald. Mickey's path was spotted, so they know that there's at least 3 members of G2 on this top half of the rift. Make it 4 once Broken Blade returns. Caps forced a rocket jump back to his tower. Now Gen G with the mid wave pushed in, get to go aggressive as Hand Sammer. Arcane shifts away. We're setting up for a Herald fight. You certainly feel the pressure being put onto the rift by these 2 teams wanting to get stuff done. As Chovy takes an almost greedy path. Could have been jumped on there by G2. He is playing very, very safe. He's got the Maokai ult stolen. Mickey dodges out on the Abscond Abduct. And that's just going to be the wave hitting the tower. G2 happy about that. They get to step up if they wanted to. But with Peanut in the area, a lot of strength for Gen G is in the route as Lissandra is caught out. The path comes through. Glacial safety, but she goes under the tower and Caps. He gets to unleash the shots. Chovy taken quite low. He burns his flash for all of Mickey's summoners, who now finally hits level 6. Lissandra becomes a lot more of a threat, and you can't dive it as heavy. And G2 certainly want the kills as Caps. He's going for the solo. The Buster shot secures first blood for G2, who get an excellent kill. And that should mean the Herald goes through to them. Caps, he's having a stellar tournament so far, and that is one way to showcase your strength. Solo killing off the LCK's probably best mid laner this year. Great play out from him, and this is why we have so many eyes on this matchup. The best team from Europe versus the best team from Korea. It's the West versus East. This is probably the closest matchup that we could see from any Western region. Our best team here at Worlds, as this is just great usage of the Tristol. As the Silas gets pulled in, he's locked in place, buffered the ultimate, knock him back. That Abscond Abduct just sends Silas to his demise. With that, Caps is able to get himself some decent components in his inventory. Gonna have firm control of this mid lane now, and Chovy can't really step up into the wave as much as he wants to. As we pan to topside, still constant trading coming out from these 2 top laners. It's been a bit of a farm fest that you realistically both junglers have tried to influence. It hasn't resulted in much. As my dog is entering the scene. Just going to bury itself in my bed. As mid lane, Caps gets jumped on. Mickey is in the area, provides some safety as topside Broken Blade taken quite low. Jax is under the tower and the ultimates are being traded. Under the turret goes a Broken Blade, scurrying away as Doran, getting aggressive on this Jax, wins out that trade and wins basically a lot of tower plating off of this one. The good thing though is Broken Blade does have TP, gets back, got Gore Drinker also from that back. It should mean that G2 get to put pressure down on the top side. Bot side. As they get under, as Broken Blade dives the tower, denies the recall from this Jax. Doran not able to join up with his team. He has got TP, but he's being kept under his tower. Broken Blade doing work, keeping Doran at bay, forcing him off of the minions. The slice comes through to avoid getting stunned under the tower. And G2, they're putting pressure across the rift all in one go. However, Gen G have found the opportunity to score themselves this Ocean Drake. And that should stop G2's plan of scaling with that objective. You have to feel if G2 were able to get that second Drake, if they were able to continue to scale up with Drakes, it would make this late game a little bit more easier for the European squad, as Hex Soul is what the two teams are playing for. As Mickey going aggressive to Glacial Path. Not going to flash at the end of it to get the route down. Obviously, Xayah can use the Feather Storm for some safety and some escape tools. But yes, this is where things get interesting, as Caps could be caught out here. Peanut is in the area and is kicking Caps towards the Silas. Chovy gets Buster shot it away, but Caps, he's ran down. He is locked up. But on the top side, Yike almost gonna get on top of this Jax. A response from Gen G is coming through, as 3 members are en route to the top side of Rift. Broken Blade, not going to get any more turret plates, but he's suddenly going to get a bit more tower damage down. Just forcing Doran to take the long route back, as bot side, the TP comes through. Silas is here. Chovy ever frosts them down. The ultimate out from the Lissandra will buy some space for G2, as an arcane shift pulls Hansama to safety, but the charm comes through from Delight, and that gets the kill onto Hansama, as G2 overstep in the bot lane. It gets punished, and G2, they're showing up in numbers. Here is Caps. The Nature's Grasp is used. Pays, forced to flash. And G2, while they want to trade something back, get nothing. And the ward that's just shown there gets everything for Gen G. Hansama shut down out of this game. You have to feel Pays getting to push some advantage down in the spot lane. And now the game gets scary. 2k is not even that. It's literally about 300 gold is the difference between the two teams, as Caps forced the rocket jump away. 3 members of Gen G collapsing on top of him. The hijack Nature's Grasp almost locks down the G2 mid lane. This is getting scarier and scarier, as you have to feel Gen G outscale G2 in this situation. There's not really much more that needs to be said than that. The snowball that G2 needed to have formed hasn't really come to fruition. They need to get this Herald, I feel, if they want to continue to pressurize this map, as Caps actually is able to secure the first tower of the game. That is a good step forward for G2 in order to continue to have some semblance of control. It's neck and neck, really, if you think about it, as TP's going to be invested by G2. That's going to be Caps joining up with the rest of his team. 4 members of G2, 5 once Broken Blade arrives. The Hex Gate being used by Doran to get behind G2. Nature's Grasp thrown out, and the Herald is secured. Another Hex Gate through, as Gen G corralling G2 up to this top side of Rift. But G2, they get out with this Herald, and they are able to probably use this on the top lane, getting themselves pressure. And while this is happening, Gen G, they're forcing the issue in the top side of mid. They're going to get themselves mid lane tier 1. But against the Tristana, you have to feel that this push always will favor G2. The Herald crashes into the tier 2 in the top lane. But Doran, he's here. He gets an epic counter strike, locking G2 down. Delight goes in. The Busher shot is used. And Caps sacrifices himself to get the tier 2. Gen G find the fight. Broken Blade is also doomed to fall. Locked up in the 5 members of Gen G. And the 2 solo lanes of G2 fall. And Gen G will be happy with the result of that one. We just need to watch Doran on this play. Watch how he utilizes the Counter-Strike. Jumps in, flashes, hits 3. The only member there that's not tagged is Hans Sammer. Then it buys time for Delight to get in on this Rakan. Caps kind of sacrifices himself while Broken Blade, he's just left die as well. G2 do manage to get 2 towers out of this play, but they sacrifice their 2 solo laners, the 2 people picking up this gold on the towers. And Gen G, they turn that play into a Hex Drake and bot lane tier 1 as Broken Blade, he's absconded, he's abducted, hijacked his ultimate as well, does Chovy. And G2 on the back foot after considerably some control as a fight under the tower. The dive comes through, the Nature's Grasp pulls Chovy into his demise. You have to feel it's actually going to be Doran falling, and that turret hour dive sucked from Gen G. They went too far, too quick, not enough lockup onto the G2 players, and they're able to get away with a pick onto the Jags. It almost looked like Chovy was going to fall, but he gets himself out of the turret range. He's getting back to his base and picked up the Zhonya's, so that's a nice thing overall from him. We watched this dive basically. Jax gets rooted up under the tower, and then Chovy looks to be tanking it. He gets hit by it. The True Shot Barrage narrowly misses Chovy, and if that landed, that would have been a huge kill. A massive shutdown over to Hans Sammer, the perfect person you would like to get that gold onto. A little unfortunate there for G2, as they're getting back out onto the Rift. You've got 13 seconds until this Baron is up. Trying to force onto Chovy. Keep the Silas at bay. The simplest way to play this game if you're G2, as he is the most fed member on Gen G. Chovy, known for being a phenomenal player, phenomenal carry for this lineup. He's certainly not one to let this position get out of hand, as Mickey demonstrating there the power of Lissandra into Rakan. The standard thing is Chovy not going to land the Abscond Abduct. If that had happened, it probably would have been the demise of Mickey. But as the game gets to a lull point, we are going to probably see these 2 teams just waiting it out for the next objective to spawn. I don't think after the previous 2 games, G2 will try and rush down another Baron. It just hasn't worked out in their favour. It has won them the game somehow. They've managed to pick off the opposition, but it's still an even-ish game. G2, they know they need to just play it safe. As Peanut hunting Hans Sammer, trying to chase him down. 4 members of Gen G up towards this Baron pit, trying to secure the vision they need to in order to get control on the map and have the purple worm buff go over to them, as Broken Blade taking a heavy trade against Doran, taking incredibly low. As the Hexgate used by Caps, he's hunting the Jax, can get the explosive charge onto him, nothing more, nothing less. Should mean Broken Blade gets the easy retreat. As Caps puts his pressure down to the spot lane. He has got TP, so if anything crazy happens on the Rift, like getting caught out himself, jumped on by Doran, uses the Grandmaster's might. He's getting on top of Caps. He jumps forward, and that's going to be the peel from the rest of Gen G. Delight is in the area, and he secures the kill. True Shot Barrage dodged by Doran, and that's an easy kill onto the G2 carry, who oversteps and overstays in the bot lane. And now this game feels very hard for G2. Their carries falling behind the mark. The only solace was that kill went over to Delight. It didn't go over to Pays, to Chovy, or to the Doran. To the Doran? The Doran? Don't know what's going on in my mind right now. But hey, G2 feeling pressured. You have to feel that after having a bit of control early, they are starting to feel the pressure of the late game coming through from Gen G, which does not get any easier. It's certainly a hard position to play out from, and with the wave states they are, with the pressure that Gen G can amount onto the map at any given time, G2 going to be having to play with their eyes firmly on the Baron. They need to not allow any opportunity for Gen G to get onto the objective, as that's going to be a route down onto Broken Blade. Getting chunked by Pays' Zaya already. Top side, Doran's just freely able to push. Caps is getting onto the Hex Drake himself, starting that one up solo. G2 pushing themselves back. Is that a TP? It's a recall from the Jax. Going back to the base. It's TP finally used. Trying to join up with the rest of his team. Yike is forcing him back. The Nature's Grasp that was hijacked comes through from Gen G. And Broken Blade is sliced down. And so is Yike. Pays gets a double. Looking for the triple. He's going to be able to get onto Mickey, who's just killed off on the wrong side of Rift. As somehow Kansama, he's fighting his way through Gen G, will not get a second. And that is a full ace for Gen G, only losing their Rakan. G2, they get the Drake, but are unable to escape the pressure from Gen G. So once you see the hijacked Nature's Grasp come through, it's so hard to play through Gen G. Their constant dive forward is so good, as Doran just gets on top of Caps, and he is unrelenting once he gets onto the target. Counter-Strike is such a dumb ability. It just locks up and deals so much for Gen G, as Mickey, he gets a Glacial Path back, but the rest of G2 are right there, and they get the shutdown. Peanut falls, Lissandro was hijacked once again, and Doran, he's got a friendly rivalry with Caps. He just keeps killing him, keeps getting on top of him, and Gen G got the Baron. They've got 4 members out with the buff, and G2 are going to feel the pressure for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And that is going to be very unrelenting, you have to feel, as Caps, he keeps getting killed by the Jax, as this looked very, very bad in the initiation from G2. Mickey, just awkward position overall, just gets absolutely deleted. Then here, Doran and Chovy utilizing the hijack Lissandro that was neatly gifted to Mickey, taking that Hexgate through. And so it's a massive shutdown onto Caps once again, thanks to Mickey's blunder. Now, with a minute 40 on this Baron buff for Gen G, they're not really threatening towers just yet. Obviously, Doran made his way down to the bot lane. He's going to be forced away, actually. He's not overstepping. G2 showing 2 members bot side mean that this mid lane tier 2 is forfeited. Gen G get to put pressure down onto the map for that, as Peanut, he's in the jungle. He's looking for picks, trying to cut off routes for G2 to get towards these side lanes. As Pays has made his way over the tier 2 on the top side, next the target for Gen G. And so the constant pressure being exuded by Gen G continues to happen, as mid lane, Doran gets aggressive, the Counter-Strike wears out, Mickey coming in on the flank, but look how little damage Caps is able to do as the hijack Nature's Grasp comes through, forcing G2 off of this Drake. The kick is gonna land, and Delight gets locked up. G2 get themselves a kill. They get themselves onto the target. Mickey goes forward using the Lissandra ult onto Chovy, taking him low, but Pays is still alive. And he's able to dish out so much damage as the G2 jungler falls. It's going to be a 2-for-1. And maybe even more for Gen G. As G2, they're dissuading the push. But it's still a massive 3.6k Baron for Gen G. They're happy with that one. As they maintain control. They maintain that gold lead they've got. And here, maybe an overstep from Gen G. They utilize the hijacked Nature's Grasp. But they go too deep. The light gets deleted. And while Mickey, he almost gets Chovy bursted out, Doran's flank comes through and it dissuades G2 from going any further. Yike also gets caught out, and here Chovy is on a rampage, baby. Mickey, while the Lissandra is great into Rakan, it's certainly very bad into a Silas. As Chovy just keeps stealing that ultimate and keeps having the ability to just carry team fights. G2 honestly gave Gen G this game with their champions. The fact that the Nature's Grasp is being constantly stolen, the Lissandra ult's constantly stolen. G2 can't really deal with what Chovy is providing his team. And they're just being ran down. And that inevitable outscale happened about 10 minutes ago when G took the first Drake. There's not really been any form of control for G2 in this game past about 15 minutes. As the Drake stack, the hope, the solace, if G2 got that, there was certainly an even footing. However, Gen G stifled that opportunity and were able to get themselves onto Soul Point after literally 29 minutes. I dare say we will see Soul come through. I don't think Gen G can overforce and get the game. I think it needs to be slow and steady at this point, because they know that G2 have reached their peaks in terms of their damage. There's not really much more that can come through. As Delight could get caught out. Not going to overstep, however. But yeah, as I'm saying, G2, there's not really much of an opportunity left on the rift for them. They need to honestly try and secure a Baron steal. That should slow the game down to hit their power points. Even them. That should allow them to get a bit more stronger. But Gen G, look at how they're positioning. They're not allowing any path forward for G2, as Cap's going to buffer the Nature's Grasp, but he's locked up and bursted out. G2 taken low. This fight's looking woeful as Hans Hammer jumped on, locked up by the Silas and the Jax. The Bash brothers for Gen G finding the kills. It's a quadra kill for Chovy. He's hunting. He wants the Penta. Peanut trying to give him it, but Broken Blade is too speedy. Denied is the Penta for Gen G. Peanut secures the ace, however. And G2, their base is in tatters as Gen G ending the game. That last fight was more of a whimper as the Korean first seeds take down G2 in our opening game of the series. It's dominant from Gen G. Simply put, Chovy and Doran put the team on their backs and carried the victory for Gen G. Not much more needs to be said than that. The game felt unplayable past 20 minutes for G2. And it felt like the draft just was too hard to play. And so, with that said, let's take a look at Game 2. The last game of the series on GOL. I'm going to be brutally honest. It was not close at all. And so, let's head into Game 2. picks and bans, it's the same thing as game 1 from Gen G. Draven, Ori, Kalista removed. G2 actually respond by banning out the Sylas. I presume that led to first pick Maokai, as it has done for them throughout the series. A Lucian lock-in for Hansama, as again the top laners, their champions make it all the way down to the second phase, and look at the KDAs for this second game. Doran, phenomenal performance. Same thing for Pays. It felt like, even the Rel, it felt like, and it looks like, a similar story to game 1, just a constant Stobel in the favour of Gen G. Is it a similar goal graph? Pretty similar, to say the least, between the two teams in game 1 and 2. But this one wasn't even close. It was just an absolute mugging that G2 really could not match. As the ADCs battled, Lucian not really a champion at this World Championships. He's not found any sort of success. And surprisingly, this was a series where Kaiser was left up throughout every game, and neither team went for it. Desire and Rakan, priority for Gen G. And G2 were kind of left to squander, as once again a Talia that finds zero success comes through. I don't need to say much more than this. This series, the G2 that we saw throughout the entirety of Worlds, certainly isn't the one we saw yesterday. They got squashed by Gen G. The top lane matchup where it looked Broken Blade favoured on paper, Doran smurfed it. And as a whole, it was very hard for G2 to actually play, because the Jax just gave no opportunity up there. It's such a broken champ that really needs to be respected in second ban phases a lot more. And yeah, we'll just take a look at something. I want to show you champions win rate. Champions, that's the one I want to go to. Champions at Worlds 2023. The mid lane pool. Here's Talia. 0% win rate. And she's still being picked. It makes zero sense to me. I'm also going to show jungle Talia's as well. She's got a win. 1 win in 8 games. 7 games technically, but yeah. It is stupid that she's able to be played, or being played, when she's not finding the wins. It's insanity. Poppy jungle, finding wins. Let's just take a look at win rate mids. What champions have got it? Sylas, the big one, finding plays at this World Championship. Ori, I would say, the most constant mid that's finding wins. Nico, Azir. Like, these picks could come through, but like, you can't allow Sylas and Jax through, I feel now. If you're G2, if you want to do this same sort of draft where you prio Maokai, because it doesn't work. You didn't allow them through in your second game, which means they weren't technically the problem, but they got to be, because you just got outscaled. I think G2's answer just did not work in game 1 and 2 against Gen G. They had a game style they wanted to play, it didn't work, so you probably should have gone back to the drawing boards and forced a secondary draft that should work. I think they didn't really come with an adaptation that was necessarily good. And I think if G2 went to red side, I think that would have been more beneficial for them. Because the presence of picks or the champions that Gen G could have got wouldn't have been as high. Like, you feel you've got more counter pick options on red side. I think G2 would have preferred that, personally. Because they just got demolished by Gen G's counter picks. Simple as that. And that's the series done with. A little quick stream today. But we covered all of the series in a nutshell. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed it, leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're new to it if you want to. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for Dam 1 or D+ Kia versus BD.